Hello, this is Jamie from Randomise User. So the bosses in Starbound are a weird blend of fantastic creatures, science fiction tropes, cheesy fantasy tropes, and ideas that survived from the early beta. In this video, we rank every boss fight from best to worst, and point out that Asra Nox is basically Metal Sonic. Shockhopper Mc1. When you're not revisiting it as an overpowered character, every boss takes a lot of hits before dying, and the Shockhopper ranks second only to the Ruin for fights that make you go, when will this end? Nevertheless, Shockhopper is my favourite designed boss, including its charge punch attack that seems designed entirely to catch you off guard and kill you in one. And even when you learn to avoid it, the next time it does it twice in a row and catches you off guard again. This is a boss you'll swear at. Even when you have the strategy and equipment to beat it, it's still a tough fight, mainly because it'll wear you down before you wear it down. But hey, it's fun. The Bone Dragon is the coolest looking boss, and has been in Starbound since before you were born, sonny. I was fighting this dude back when you could spawn him anywhere, and the way to kill him was based on how well you built your fight arena, Terraria style. The modern version is at the end of the glitch mission, after an endless tower defense section. This is unfortunate really, because the dragon's a fun fight, but by the time it appears, you're a bit tired of the mission and just want to get on with the endgame. I have great affection for this boss, even though getting to him is a ball ache, so it's probably higher in this list than it should be. But just look at it! It's cool! The Urchius Horror used to be a massive arsehole before they added checkpoints to missions, and also it had a bug during the second phase of the boss, where its beams could kill you, even when you weren't touching them. Anyway, the Urchius Horror looks great, to the extent it even hints at people trapped inside. How to beat it, whilst puzzling the first time, is neatly done, more about platforming than actual fighting, which is probably the right call so early in the game where you're not used to equipping yourself. It's really not one to revisit though. Once you know how to do it, there's very little danger here. And the creatures it spawns every so often, well, bit of a token effort, pal. So if you think about it, Asra Nox is the only proper character baddie in the game. Every other enemy is a monster, from the lowliest pop-top to the big old Ruin, which makes Asra unique, perhaps a bit out of place. The fight itself is a bit dickheady, a case of waiting and dodging for what feels like forever before you can pile in a few hits. But it's definitely survivable. I beat it first time, despite feeling like it was going to be impossible at the time. In fact, that encounter was saved for posterity in my Starbound hardcore series. Asra Nox has bags of character, lovely animation, and it's nice not to be facing a bullet sponge. It would be nicer still not to have to fight her a second time in the Ruin, which adds nothing to that encounter really, other than lowering your health just before the final boss. Thanks Asra Nox. Through Nox. Ixadoom always felt like the easiest of the bosses, relative to the tier where you're supposed to fight it. It helps that Nero fights it too. It's the old classic boss type where you wear it down slowly but occasionally get a window to doing a lot more damage at once, adding a little equipment swapping spice to things. Nothing spectacular really, but you may be lucky enough to get its comically giant claw weapon drop. There's big laughs aplenty there. Maybe. Big Ape is probably the funniest looking boss here, which means instant points on my scoring system. It's another long one this, with a lot of bullet hell barrages. That means you're going to be spamming medikits more than you'll actually be fighting. But the 4 stages keep this boss varied, and there are even jokes in it if you know where to look. And hey, it's a big bloody ape! Big Ape is memorable, the right level of tough for this game stage, but still, yeah, it's a prick. The Ruin is a bullet sponge. Yeah, it's a summation of the game, it's crucial to the story and lore, it reminds you of biomes past, it's spooky as fuck, and the cutscene after you win is, well, genuinely affecting. Nevertheless, bullet sponge. Getting down to the boss in the first place is a bit of a slog too. It's a combination of digging, fighting weakish enemies, and there's an arsehole gotcha of a drop that can easily kill you, that bit at the end of Rain World style. Oh man, and you have to fight Asra Nox again, in that very Metal Sonic style. It's alright though generally, a slow and steady fight that demands concentration, and the attacks are quite varied. To even start writing about the Kluex Avatar, I had to go back and fight it again, because out of all the bosses, it singularly failed to stick in my memory. It kinda lacks something to latch onto, a personality or a cool gimmick. It's like just a boss, with a bunch of random attacks on loop. Also, no, that's all I can think of. One of the very few survivors from the early beta, Dreadwing the Penguin is the UFO that stays infuriatingly just out of reach for the most part, an early slap in the face for anyone who thought they'd focus on melee. It's one of those bosses where you just need to know what weapon to take with you. Like many Starbound bosses, it does look cool, despite not being that inventive, but it's kinda hard to find anything to really love about this one. It's funny actually, as a side note, over the years a lot of people have complained that penguins don't really belong in this game, but why the hell not? There are also space llamas, cowboy gas sacks, and silent toads that sell you chairs. It's not a 100% serious game, you know? God, I bet you play as an avian, don't you? Somewhat similar to the Kluex Avatar, the ancient vault bosses are procedurally generated nuisances that offer a few vaguely clever strategies to learn and attacks to counter, but nothing memorable. Now, this is slightly token post-endgame content, which you won't want to come back to after a few goes. They're not even the toughest of bosses, even though you'll be the strongest character you'll ever be by this point. Kudos to the devs for going to the effort of creating bosses that will be different every time, but really, it's many different combinations of unexciting components, and forcing you to fight one every time you want to do some terraforming seems a little silly. And just imagine if you got all the way to the terraform machine to find you were £5 short. Ha 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 ha! And that's it. If you want more stuff like this, please consider supporting me on Patreon, or just hit subscribe so you'll know when new stuff comes out. Also leave a comment if you really like the Kluex Avatar, so we can all have a big laugh. Now go and click on one of the videos on the upcoming screen. I highly recommend them, whatever they are. And thanks for watching!